This is the second of our trend indicators, and like the trends indicator itself, the trend monitor has been developed with a single objective in mind: to help you to stay in a position and maximize your profit from any trend that develops thereafter. Because when all's said and done, it is the hardest thing to do in trading. We all suffer it, because once you have a position that's in profit and you get a reversal or a pullback against you, your gut reaction, your emotional response is to close the position and take your profit off the table. It's in our DNA. We can't help it. It's not a fault that anyone has. It's just programmed into us. It's part of our DNA. It's how we've evolved. But it is our biggest problem as traders, because if we cannot maximize those trends which develop profitably into longer term trends, and when I say longer term, I'm talking in comparative terms. For a long term scalping trader, it might be 1, 2, 3 minutes. For a longer term hourly trader, it might be several hours or days. The issue is that is staying in the trend to maximize the profit potential, whatever your time horizon may be. And that's the issue, because if we can't do that, we all take small losses. That's part and parcel of trading. We all know that. It is the larger trends that develop and give us that profit potential from those fewer number but bigger returns. That is what drives our trading account forward and outweighs those small losses that we inevitably get as part and parcel of trading. So it is a key part, not only from the emotional aspect, but also from the overall profitability of our moving forward in terms of our trading accounts. So that's why we've developed these two indicators. As I say, this is the second one. This is the trend monitor. Now, whereas the trends indicator works very close to the price action, the trend monitor here, which is at the bottom on these four charts, and this is exactly the same workspace. So I've simply removed the trend indicator and I've replaced it with the trend monitor. And what I'll do in the next series of videos, I will replace the trends indicator so you can see both working in action, which is how we recommend you use them. And we always recommend that you use them in multiple timeframes in this way. So this is the trend monitor at the bottom here. And the trend monitor takes a much more considered view of the trend. In other words, it steps back from the price action. So it's looking at it over a longer perspective to try and gauge whether that minor reversal or minor pullback is indeed a true change in trend, or is it simply a congestion phase? And that's what the indicator is trying to do. And it does it through this color combination. So when you've got the bright colors, the bright blue or the bright red down here, then that is telling you obviously that that is a bearish trend down here, and this is a bullish trend. Now when we move into these transitional colors, this is when we are moving into the congestion phase. And what we see is we either see a darker blue or a darker red developing. There is no guarantee that when we go from what we call a primary trend lower to a primary trend higher, in other words, from bearish to bullish, that we are going to go through the full spectrum of colors. In other words, in that particular example, if we're in a bearish trend, we're going to be bright red. Then perhaps we come to a pause point, we maybe go to dark red. Then perhaps we go to darker blue, and ultimately as the trend develops into the bullish phase, we then come out the other side into the bright blue. There's no guarantee that the trend monitor will do that every time. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you can get a change with only one of those darker colors in between, and sometimes the trend monitor itself will actually go, if it's a strong change in trend, it will go straight from one color to the other. In other words, from a brighter color to a brighter color, bright blue to bright red, or bright red to bright blue. But the changes in color, the darker colors, have been designed to try and give you a signal to say, yep, okay, we've got a potential congestion building, but is it going to be enough to reverse this trend? You know, what are we seeing? If we take this example down here, we've had the reversal low, we've got a bearish trend in place, we've had a little bit of a pullback, no flicker of a change on the trend monitor. It's continuing to flash as confirmation of the bearish trend continuing. But then as this price action starts to develop here, we move into the darker phase of dark blue. And then ultimately, as the trend begins to develop further, we then come out the other side and we come into this bright blue phase. So as you can see, there was no dark red in this particular change. We just went from bright red into a darker blue phase. In other words, the trend monitor is saying, yep, okay, I think we're coming out of this bearish phase of price action we've had. Looks pretty bullish. Okay, and now we're into the bullish phase higher. It's also important to note in this, this is on the, what are we on? The 3-minute time frame here on the NQ. We're already in a bullish phase here. We come into some price congestion here, but notice on the trend monitor there's no change at all. It just carries on straight through. It's basically saying, yep, fine, okay, I can see that, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, the trend is still intact. We're still in bullish phase, and on up we go. We get some congestion here. You can see we've come up into the bullish trend has developed. We've had a little bit of reversal here. We're starting to see that reflected in terms of the darker blue. We come out into brighter blue as this starts to develop. We get a little bit of a pause here, but then we're out again. Then we get a little bit of a pause here as we move into this congestion phase, but out the other side. And this really, in a way, encapsulates what it's all about, the trend monitor on that particular chart, because, you know, once you've got some profit in here, maybe you've got in somewhere here and you're seeing it, then you're into congestion, you're starting to worry, you're starting to stress, is this going to reverse? You know, should I take my profit off the table? This is really what the trend monitor is about. It really is there to give you the confidence to help you to stay in the trend and maximize what you can from it in that particular time frame. But as we always say, please use this in multiple time frames. It's what it's designed for, because what you will see is, as always, any change in trend will always happen in your fastest time frame. So if there was going to be a change in trend, and we've got a 1-minute chart here and a 3-minute chart here and a 5-minute down here, what would ultimately happen is you would start to see an initial change in color on the 1-minute. That would then ripple over into your 3-minute if it's a true change in trend. And this might go through to red, for example. This might only be on a darker red. Then ultimately, if it's a change, it'll go through to the 3. It'll then ripple through to the 5 and ultimately down onto the 10, and so on and so forth, right the way down. It's like a stack of dominoes almost falling over. When you've got a change in trend, it just ripples through and it keeps on going until obviously that change in trend is either paused into congestion and maybe reverses the other direction, and so on and so forth. But this is the principle of trading, and it's the principle of using both the trend monitor and the trend indicator in this way on multiple time frames. So I hope that's given you a good introduction to the trend monitor. And as I say, like the trends indicator, you can adjust the sensitivity. So you can adjust it. You can smooth out some of these phases of price action exactly the same way we did on the trends. I've left this as it is, by the way. This is on the default here. I haven't adjusted the sensitivity at all, but you can do that. And that will then give you stronger signals, if you like, because you're adjusting the sensitivity to changes on the darker colors. But again, that's a personal preference. You know, that's down to you as a trader, what you're comfortable with. And as I say, just to recap, the trend monitor takes a much more considered view of price action. It steps back, if you will, and tries to view it from a slower perspective, whereas the trends indicator is working very close to the price action. I'm going to do another video with this to show you on the one I did earlier on trends, where we had the bullish momentum, and then we'll put it all together, putting both the trend indicator and the trend monitor on the same chart. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular video. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Lots more to come as always for these indicators on TradeStation. See you soon, and bye for now.